This is IBM Museum, and this video is rather hasty and late. In fact, it's so late that I'm just about 12 and a half hours at the time of this recording from doing my live stream on Saturday morning. Now that's 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is GMT minus 7. That comes out to being noon Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, and 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Certainly, if you're outside the United States, you can go through and calculate from that GMT minus 7. As I've gone through and posted about that live stream, you can click on the set reminder button to get the notification for when that does happen. But for this video, it's actually an unboxing, and it's a package I received rather late today. I know what this item is by the size and the weight of it. And I did have 2 other pieces come in, and I'll show those units and kind of show the connectivity as well. But let me get going and turned around. I will go through, and I'm going to, of course, hide the webcam picture of me. Just going to my camcorder output here. And after this thing is unboxed, I do have some pages on it as well. I mean, it's so hasty. I should have gone through, and I even should have masked out the address information, but I'll make sure that I don't go through and show that too closely. And I just have to determine how this is sealed up. Looks like it's packed well. And this might even be a relative original packaging for this mold. I don't know if this is just a new old stock. We'll get to look at the condition of it once I get into the box. And it looked pretty complete otherwise. Okay. Oh yeah. So, and this is just an unidentified or unmarked with my address, but this is where I got this from, and probably a pretty good price. And it was actually more of the amount was towards shipping, which I'm very glad that it looks like that was observed, because you like these things packaged very well. Looks like in this case it's shielded by the styrofoam top and bottom, and it's almost like this box is made for this device. Exactly what it is. And I can see some scratches and a ding on the top. I'm sure that doesn't necessarily affect any functionality. But let's get this unit down. And you typically see scratches and things like that for this rack-mounted equipment anyway. When they go through and they pull it from the rack, and the other items that are above and below, or if it's on the top of the rack. Nice little, and these divots, for all the appearance, they don't really go too deep into this, so this still looks pretty good. And this, I'm not even sure, because that looks more than, looks a little bit more than a 1U, and it's less than it's not a 2U. I'd have to go through and figure out what that is. And we may even go to the point of firing this up just to see. At some later point, I want to go through and console into these. But as we can see, let me bring this up to the camera. And this is a little bit hefty of unit. So this is an 8239001. And you can see a MAC address, of course, on there. It looks almost like an Ethernet switch. In fact, like very comparable to the IBM Ethernet switches. But this is in fact token ring. And you can see the diagrams there for the ring in, ring out of the ports that are next to the console port. That's where you can go through and stack these units. And basically that just means a chain. And in the manual they include, they show how that's cabled up in those instances. And we also have those fiber connections that you may have seen when I held it up. And this actually has in addition to this fiber module, and we'll get talking about that in a moment, it also has the expansion of the additional 16 ports of token ring for this lower board. And I'd be fine even with the 16 ports up above. You know, when I go through and do token ring, I'm not going to have that many stations connected. But for vintage systems, this may be the way that I go through. You know, I can get a bridge going between token ring and Ethernet with that, of what I've shown in the past, that that unit that was the token ring to Ethernet bridge. But you can go through and you can connect those onto 16 megabit, the older computers onto 16 megabit Ethernet to, it's faster than the 10 megabit Ethernet boards that were available. But this unit looks like relatively good condition. As long as it works, I'm not going to be too worried. It's got a few dents and dings, a little bit of a corner ding there, but certainly that was before shipping, and so I'm glad that it did go through and arrive in one piece. Now, most of the reason I got this was for these, ultimately for these fiber ports, and I do have one length of fiber that I've ordered so far. I'm going to go through and get some more of these, and this is a 50-meter length, and I want to have a few longer pieces for once I go through and have this all connected up. Maybe I'll go through and order some really short ones, like 1 meter, to just demonstrate a lot of the links and everything else. I don't know if in this video if we'll necessarily go through and do that, but with this one piece of cable. But this is actually multi-mode fiber cable. And I use this actually at my house for links between Ethernet switches. Of course, it's got a different connector. These are the ST connectors, which are the twist-on. And it has different ends, but I go through fiber links between the switches, the Ethernet switches I have at home. And that's actually supposed to be a 4 gigabit link between those switches. And really, the nice thing about that fiber is it's not affected by transients from your electrical lines or anything else. These can run parallel to your power conduits and everything else, and it's not going to take on any electrical. Multi-mode is kind of the short distance interlink between the equipment like that, and it's generically orange in color is what marks out multi-mode, although you can get it in different colors. I mean, it's normally around an orange just to avoid confusion between it and single mode. And single mode is the long hollow fibers, and in fact, if you have a short lengths of single mode fiber, and when I say short, I'm talking about anything under probably several miles. You typically have to have attenuation on it to use it. It's just done for different things. Typically that's done for the fiber delivery to a location for internet connectivity. When you hear about fiber to the home or fiber to the office, it would be done over signal in a building or a structure, or even for short lengths, you would go through and using multi-mode fiber. Now the other units that I got, and let's go through, and I guess I can moved in front of the system here. I'm going to bring up the page of what the 89 excuse me, the 8239-001, and we have even a printable version. And this goes through, and it IBM, you know, I wish that they had still some of these manuals up for the links, but they go through a real nice informational page on the unit, when it was available, when it was withdrawn, and looks like at least 4 years or so of life. I'm going to get more use out of this unit for the abstract, and I may have to go through and of course you can go through and pause the video to go through and read any areas of this. Okay, and I'll just kind of scroll through the listing here. And this is the model 001 that I have. Okay, just make sure that I'm out of the... So 1 to 8, A239s. And these are enumerated in a stack. If you have them all interconnected, they go through and they're all enumerated in that chain as, you know, probably under just the same as effectively the token ring structure of what is, because it all combines all those token ring stations into one big network. And I want to get down at least to where it just explains a little bit of it. And it talks about that expansion slot. I've got that expansion slot option on this unit. So it's 32 UTP connections, unshielded twisted pair. And then it has those fiber connections. I was really more interested in, because I have standard, what's called a MAW, multi-access unit, that connects up token ring stations. And even I could set up a MAW to go through and set up, you know, 8 interconnected token ring workstations. That'd probably be enough. But these units, they go through and combine a lot more, and they have a lot more intelligence to run the network. You can go through and structure it better. And I just wanted to see what the capabilities are in this unit. We'll get to see a little bit more of this when we console in. And I went through and have reviewed a little bit of the manuals to these. I would like to find, I would like to have a CD that had the PDFs and everything else. We'll get to see what those listings are when we get a little bit deeper into this document. Okay. And it's down to the network management features. And then, okay, talk about the ring in, ring out. We'll get to see a little bit more in the other manual I have. And it's a good thing to know that these are year 2000 ready. It did straddle when this unit was issued over the Y2K stuff. And that's fine. If it's able to deal with 2021 and soon to be 2022 and onwards for a few years, I'll be happy. And this unit was, as it shows here, was a replacement for the IBM 8238, the unit that preceded in numerically earlier. And then they talk about what it doesn't necessarily replace from that, but it is a very full featured unit. And okay, we have the summary and the, okay, and I thought that this, okay, yeah, we're getting down to it. I thought this is a little bit longer of paging when I thought I was reviewing before. Or maybe I just zipped down towards the bottom a little bit quicker. And so for cabling, and this is kind of the thing where the UDP cabling, unshielded twisted pair, actually Cat2 was the 4 megabit token ring. And did I say Cat2? Cat2 was the 4 megabit token ring, and Cat4 was the 16 megabit per second token ring. And as long as you have higher categories, like you could use category 3 in place of category 2 wiring, and using category 5 wiring in place of category 4, or even below category 2, category 3. I'll go through and I have enough cabling for category 5 as it is. And I've got media converters and things like that. Supports up to a maximum of 256 stations per ring. And okay, and they give all the configuration listings or what the examples are of how you've got to set up that that cabling. And so even here it talks about that fiber ring in, ring out. Recommended maximum length of optical fiber cable can be used between ring in and ring out connections is 2 kilometers. And I'd have to look at the fiber size. That's probably still speaking of multi-mode fiber. So that's, you know, more than the distance I even am looking for. With multi-mode fiber, for the lengths that I have, it's going to be a maximum length of probably 75 feet is the typical, the longest fiber runs that I have within my house, just to interconnect the switches. Okay, they talk about the management. And I was wanting to get down to, they're talking about the latest information about these products. And I think a lot of these links for all that is going to be dead. And there's probably CDs out there of information that IBM released that covers this information. This is, let's see, oh, it even has some management software for it maybe. That might be interesting to see. And that using that SNMP for going through and managing the devices on the network. I'd heard of that campus manager, and like I say, I went through and I breezed through. I'll include this link in the description, the video description. Gives the dimensions, the weight. So this is a little bit over 15 pounds. And that's close to 7 kilograms in metric. Okay. Won't get down power line cords, that's pretty standard. And these are, does it look like these are dual voltage, 110 and 220 both? Okay, I wanted to get down to these publications, because this is important stuff. I mean, having these manuals, the setup and user's guide, and the Stackable Hub command reference. Now, I found a link to, I mean, in the generic manual pages, and I'll pull up that link a little bit later for going through and how to go through and interconnect and the units. That's very helpful. I mean, I'll probably go through and even print that PDF. And of course, it just being a generic manuals page online, it has ads and other content that are in there. But I was glad to find it because that shows some of the details behind, and no doubt I'll go through and study that quite a bit. Let's go through and I will pull up. I'll show the other things that came in today. And go through, get my camcorder back in position. Okay, we'll have the fiber. This packaging, this is not being sent to me by USPS. So eBay sellers don't reuse the bags that you get for free from your post office to package up items in this way. I can go through and I'll use these, any postal officials out there, I'll go through and reuse these bags for official purposes. That's the padded envelopes. And at least these are priority mail, not the express rated. And this is a different seller. And so this is, that's kind of interesting for being the, I don't know how they have that port shielded. This is an IBM 8220, as it shows there. And it has that Type A, that hermetic connector. And then it's got the send and the receive. And I'm hoping that these would go through and for the ring in and ring out fiber ports here, I'm wondering if this will go through and I can link up to even as much as 2 of these 8220s. I was planning, and that's why I got 2. I did have one of these units previously, you know, I thought, well, if I've got one side, I need something at the other end for fiber, and I'd bought these 8220s before I found the A239 online. And decided, well, that's probably some good equipment to have as well. Manual switches for the ring speeds, 4 or 16 megabit per second. And then that ring in, ring out switch, I'll have to look through and find out what exactly it is. It's probably something for the pairing of the units. Maybe that it switches the lines that you've probably got to have receive into the transmit to the other side and transmit into the receive. Just that crossover in effect. And that may have something to do with that. And then these A220s are really notable, and I don't know why IBM did it this way, but just having this big old power supply hanging out the back of these things. And that's where most of the weight actually is for these things, is the thing, and then the power connection being right below that. And these look in pretty good shape. And they were relatively a good price as well, and probably more paid towards shipping them. And they were sent in a box of styrofoam noodles, and then were enclosed in these within. I have my 4 envelopes I can go through and use for official purposes. And I wonder, this is set to that 4 megabit ring speed as well, and it actually does have the cap over. It's just a little plastic cap, basically, that goes over that Type 1 connection. So it'll be interesting to go through and to check on these as well, and see what functionality I can get out of them. Okay, it goes, well, who knows? Let me go through and lastly, I'm going to bring up that manual page because it's got some very helpful details within it. Okay, and here's the link for that. I'll go through and provide that in the video description as well. It's 141 pages, and it does show a listing of the pages, an index, and since I'm viewing it through OBS, okay, it's got the page one. I'm not able to go through as easily to leaf through the pages with the way that OBS. It doesn't give me the little thumbnails of the pages. And I was leafing through this, and of course, everyone will get to see if they want a new refrigerator. Some of these pages, of course, initially, they're going to be blank. I was trying to think of, it would have been good for me to write down some of the pages that I was looking at in particular, because that was very, we'll at least get to see a listing of how the pages are set up, and it does give some very good diagrams. And I'm not even able to leaf through the pages very well by this index, the page, number of the 141 by typing a different number. But what I did is I brought up a separate browser window so I could kind of refresh my mind of what the pages I looked at. And there it has that, the model 001 that it refers to. I think that's even a picture of the model 2. But I guess it goes through the model 1 features. And page 39 shows the how you connect, how you would interconnect two of these units between those ring out and ring in lines. And this is a little bit different from the stacking. And as I say, I hope that I'm able to go through and link in up to two separate 8220s, but we'll kind of see. I'll see what I can do with that, those fiber links. And I didn't see the A220s listed in that, necessarily in that compatible equipment, but we'll find out in the end. And on page 53, there was this helpful guide for using the LEDs to diagnose problems. And I wanted to get, really as a final step, into showing where using the console port of the unit to go through and starting that configuration. And as I say, I'll go through and study the manual quite a bit. But let me see if I can find where that information was. Okay, and that was even a little bit of backtracking to page 41 for this configuration. And it talks about how to log into the interface, that console port, when you have a console port. And you have a no modem cable, and it's interesting that I have all my no modem cables, but most of them are in these 25 pin configurations. I mean, for the older systems, I need and I have some converters that go through for the 9 pin to 25 pin, and then I've got a unit. I thought I had a 9 pin unit of these as well. This is a null modem. Get that where that ring light is really just kind of washes out the embossing. But I need to just probably pick up, I'd like to just pick up a 9 pin to 9 pin of the right connections for going through and consoling into these units, and including over here to my 8275 at some point as well. But this provides the sayings and talks about where you set it up at 9600 baud, no parity, 8 data bits, 1 stop bit, pretty standard stuff, and just the VT100 emulation. And I have, of course, a lot of abilities to go through and console in, even from relatively modern stations, on that 9-pin connector. So I just have to get me a no modem cable, and I think we'll be set to go for a video demonstrating that. Let's go to page 42, and just they're reinforcing some of the equipment, establishing a session, and they talk about the default login. And I think even on the next page it says if there's not a password that's set on the unit, it goes in and it has that password field as blank, but I'll have to figure out how these are configured. And but it talks about some of the screens that you'll see once you're logged in for just the menuing system that you can go through and bring up on these units. And I mean, this looks fairly involved. I mean, I'll enjoy kind of going through and putting the settings in. It has TCP/IP settings here for the address and subnet mask, your gateway address. And so even going through, once I have the token ring to Ethernet bridge, there's some possibilities there for going through and having that effectively linked into, you know, or even assigning TCP IP addresses on the network from that. So this will be nice to go through and check out. People will be able to kind of review the manual. I'll give the link here. So I hope that was an informative video for some of the things of how I'm going to try and use this unit later on. But was really great getting it in today and being able to unbox it and look at it directly to determine how I'm going to go through and set it up as well. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click on that like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. Recommend it to your friends that are interested in this content too, so I can grow and that subscriber base. But that's all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.